Netball Australia's first national league was formed in 1985, which saw the top teams from each state league compete against each other. Nolan, this must have been a significant step in the development of the game domestically.
It was a significant step. Prior to the ESSO Super League coming in 1985, the only competition that we got against each other from a state perspective was the annual national championships that were moved around the countryside. And this was a terrific opportunity. It was sponsorship from ESSO and later Mobile to actually pay for these teams to actually win their state championships, and as a club actually come together and play against each other. And so it happened in different guises over the period of the mid-80s to the mid-90s, in that sometimes it was a 4-team series, other times it was an 8-team, and I think it even got to a 10-team series. And these teams came together. Occasionally they had names which were unidentifiable, like it's very, very difficult to remember some of the names because they adapted names for that period of time instead of using their normal names from that club stage and that club period. So it was terrific, and it was wonderful that it sort of then led into what is now the Commonwealth Bank Trophy, and we've now been able to make that a full-blown competition where the girls actually are lifted out of their state competitions and play what is a true national league. And
as with other sports and other codes, did the establishment of a national competition take it to a more elite level?
Yes, it has. It's a big step from the state leagues into the national league, but the players that are playing in that are very much professional. Their salaries don't reflect that, unfortunately, in women's sport, but that's something that obviously Netball Australia is working on at the moment, because their commitment and the amount of travel that they do and the time that they have off work has meant that they're basically full-time athletes, and obviously need to look after themselves, and this playing standard is just, it's so different because of the venues that they're playing in, and just the techniques that are used with their training, and all of that is reflected on the court, so that it's a very fast, exciting game, and probably more that losing that tag of it being a no-contact sport, because, in the past, netball was always as being no contact, and yet we know that there's so much bump and grind going on there.
There's a fair bit of hip and shoulder goes in.
Exactly right.
That, yes. You mentioned the names that are a bit unfamiliar, because I was caught a bit by surprise. This 1989 final that we're going to have a look at, the Sydney Tigers. I thought, no, don't they mean the Sydney Swifts? So it can't be the Sydney Tigers, surely. But there were different names around in those days.
That's right. I think it was a compilation team, because the teams that played in what was the State League in New South Wales at that particular time were district clubs, so they were district associations. They actually represented Randwick or Manly or whatever. And this particular team that we're going to see had a compilation of players: Sue Kenny, Keely Devery, Katrina Wagg, Nicole Cusack. They were all sublime players that were A.I.S. athletes, went on to being Australian athletes, and within the netball community, very much household names.
Well, you mentioned the A.I.S, and that's the other team in the final we're about to see. Obviously, that's been a terrific program to bring on players. But does that suggest there's a discrepancy between players who have come from there and players who are still there? Are we going to see that sort of different level between players?
Well, probably, yes, because the A.I.S tried to select players that were in a development phase and under 21, so they were normally around the 18 and 19 years of age. But that particular year, they had some good players, and Natalie Avellino, who was only just retired this year, she played in the Commonwealth Games, was one of those athletes that's on the court here. So they really did have some very good grounding in those years, and under the tutelage of Wilma Shakespeare and Gay Teague, so two absolutely wonderful netballers themselves. They were very much legends, yes.
Well, let's go to the 1989 Super League final between the Sydney Tigers and the team from the A.I.S.
Hello and welcome to one of the highlights of the netball season. This is the 4th time the competition has been held, and the Australian Institute of Sport have been involved in all 4 finals. They won it in 1985 and 86 and were beaten by the goal by Melbourne Blues in 1987. However, this year, Adele Saunders, I think they face probably their toughest task ever against the Sydney Tigers.
I think they certainly will have a tough task because they do have such a wealth of talent and experience in the Sydney Tigers lineup that they will certainly find it a very, very difficult job.
Plenty of exciting youth in the Australian Institute of Sport side, ranges in age from 19 to 21. The goal shooter is Zelda Yates. Goal attack, Tina Anderson. Wing attack, Julianne Sloan. Wing defence, Susan Gill. Centre, Alison Wheatley. The goal defence and captain is Sharon Finnan, and the goalkeeper, Frances Dyker. 5 Australian senior representatives in the Sydney Tigers. The goal shooter, Nicole Cusack. The goal attack, Katrina Wagg. The wing attack, the captain, Sue Kenny. The centre, Carissa Dalwood. The wing defence, Lisa Wilson. The goal defence, Cheryl McCormack. And the goalkeeper, Keely Devery. Carissa Dalwood to start proceedings. The umpires, Jan Cross of Victoria and Nola Calnon of Western Australia. Chance for Cusack. The penalty shot goes to Katrina Wagg, and the opening score, a goal, 1-0 to Sydney Tigers.
And of course the A.I.S team is going to have to watch and not let those balls go through. Their defence must be tied right from the first moment.
And a toss-up forced by Dalwood, one of the most exciting prospects in Australian netball. Play by Wheatley to Anderson, looking for Yates. A misdirected pass gives Sue Kenny the opportunity. So the Tigers starting well. Lisa Wilson. Kenny looking for Cusack.
Handling errors are one that they must watch. They can't afford to drop any passes or misdirect them.
Cusack inside the circle to Kenny, into Wagg, scored the opening goal. It's there, so the score will hold. 2-0 to the Sydney Tigers. Early pressure from Sydney Tigers. Sue Kenny, bounce pass to Cusack, her first shot. Confident start too by the Australian senior squad member. 3-0 to the Sydney Tigers.
This, of course, is what the Sydney Tigers are looking for, to make a break early in the game.
Now a chance for the Institute of Sport, but good defence by the Australian rep, Lisa Wilson, formerly Lisa Behag. With Keely Devery back in the Australian senior squad after a year's layoff. Cormack is back to her. Slick passing indeed by Sydney Tigers. Overhead pass to McCormack. For Wagg. Kenny. Well done by Frances Dyker.
There's a loose ball picked up, and they're making certainly distance with it.
For Sloan. And penalty shot for Alison Wheatley. Can't score outside the circle. But the ball remains with Anderson. Giving away is Dalwood of Wheatley. Very important here for the Institute of Sport to get a goal. Down 3 already.
Very difficult to get through that tight defence.
It's with Yates. Taking well by Devery, so didn't get that early goal. Fine pass by McCormack. Beautiful pass by Kenny Dalwood. This is brilliant netball by the Sydney Tigers. Kenny. And the penalty shot to Cusack. Her second goal. 4-0 to the Sydney Tigers.
Now the Australian Institute, of course, they have to now try and break this attacking run that the Sydney Tigers have got on. They're going to be working very hard, but they will be nervous.
Cusack, another goal, 5-0, and 11:50 remaining in the first quarter.
The Tigers with a big psychological advantage over the Australian Institute team, which of course is the up-and-coming group.
Once again, Yates failing to get the opening goal. Chance for Anderson, the opening score for the Institute of Sport, 5-1 to the Tigers. The work of the Sydney Tigers has been so slick so far. Cusack going back to Captain Kenny. Cusack looking for Wagg. Bounce pass to Kenny. Threading the line to Katrina Wagg. Defence by Finn in combination with Dyker. And penalty pass to Francis Dyker. Enormous challenge on the defenders for Institute today. And the ball going to Lisa Wilson. Cusack out of the circle. Getting back to Cusack. Dyker in the way.
Dyker's doing good work in that circle there. She's forcing that ball right out each time.
5-1 to the Sydney Tigers. Overhead pass. Played by Finnan. Friendly pass to Leanne Sloan. Fine defence by Sydney Tigers. Combination defence. Devery. Cormac. Sir Wilson. Sue Kenny. The floating pass. The two centres clash. Wheatley and Dowwood. Penalty pass taken quickly. Space for Cusack. And another goal to the Sydney Tigers. They lead 6-1. Goals. Sydney Tigers beat the Institute last weekend in Canberra. So it's going to take an enormous effort by the Institute side to win this final.
There was a penalty there awarded to the Sydney Tigers. Frustration on the part of the A.I.S shooter.
Dowwood to Kenny. Cusack. And
it's their first loose pass. They'll have to keep that ball down and keep it in play.
It's a rare error so far by the Sydney Tigers. Interception by Sue Kenny. Dowwood to punish the opposition. Kenny. Dowwood. Cusack. 7-1 to Sydney Tigers. Kenny, the variety has been fantastic so far. Cusack and really putting a pressure. Well done by player for Institute of Sport and Susan Gill. Chance for her. She got the ball back again to Sloan. Yates. Wheatley. Can't score outside the circle. And the goal shooter on the goal attack. And a fine defence by Lisa Wilson. With Leanne Sloan, but Julie Devery showing her Australian senior experience.
Their anticipation is magnificent, the Tigers, and of course that's what the A.I.S team is looking to emulate.
Tina Anderson with 1-2 with Wheatley. Second goal, 7-2 in favour of the Sydney Tigers. 8 minutes remaining in the first quarter.
Off from the centre pass with the wing going well up into the corner of the court. They did very well there to come through that tight defence.
Finding the goals.
Contact.
Ball with Devery. Wilson's got a bit of space. Kenny with speed. Back to her. Beautiful pass to Cusack. Can she cap it off with a goal?
Penalty coming up.
Can't, and play by Gill. Good movement by the Institute of Sport now. Anderson.
He's starting to feel more confident here.
But they can't find the goals at the moment. Now the opportunity for Yates. Not quite. Battling with Devery. Still can't. Can Anderson? Yes, she can. Fighting goal by the Institute of Sport, but they trail 7-3.
A well-earned goal there.
Cusack. Wilson. Dowwood. Lovely pass to Nicole Cusack. So the penalty shot. 8-3 to the Sydney Tigers. They are on fire in this Super League final. Starting pass, alternate, so it's with the Institute. Wheatley. Yates now, can she find her range? In the way is McCormack, combination with Devery that fires the pass. The overhead one quickly up to Back to Kenny, interception, brilliant play by Finnan, inspirational play by the captain of the Institute of Sport.
They're starting to feel their feet now. They're gaining confidence with each pass.
In anticipation by Wilson, knocks it away.
A brilliant defender, Lisa Wilson.
Knocked it away from Julianne Sloan. The ball is lost, and it's with McCormack. Interception almost by Sloan, but quickly through Kenny and Darwood. Their combination's been brilliant, but well done by Wheatley, getting in the way of her opponent Darwood. And the ball with the Australian Institute of Sport. Now there's the opportunity. And notice here, clever play by Wheatley, forcing that ball to Devery. Institute of Sport. That's outside the goal for Wheatley. And then grandeur with Darwood.
They're working it around. They're not going to force it through that defence until they've got a clear passage.
It's meant for...
and there it is.
So Yates. She needs a goal.
She needs to lift those shots. They're a bit flat as yet.
Still can't get there. Another opportunity. That's the one she wanted. 8-4 in favour of Sydney Tigers. See the attempt by Zelda Yates just going in off the rim of the bar. Relief. They're down by 4. And the ball with the Australian Institute of Sport. Not for long.
At outside.
So Frances Dyker for Wheatley. Pass by Sloan. But it's the defence again. Devery and McCormack combining. Wilson. Pass meant for Sue Kenny. Intercepted. Ball is taken by the Institute. Through Anderson. A lovely pass to Yates. But going back to Wheatley. Quick 1-2. Steadying things down. Still not making the target. But a fine recovery. A penalty shot to Yates. Still not there. Devery in the way.
It's necessary for her to lift those balls.
Ball with Devery, the Sydney Tigers. McCormack too high for Darwood. Susan Gill, wing defence for Institute of Sport. The captain Finnan for Anderson. Rebound. Ends up with Wheatley. Over to Anderson. And now she's got the penalty shot here. Should convert, must convert, does. 8-5 in favour of Sydney Tigers.
Yes, that's most important, to put those shots in, and the score would be much closer had they in fact put those earlier attempts in.
And the ball ends up with Sydney Tigers. McCormack. 1-2 with Sue Kenny. Interception, fine play by Sloan. And Gill back to Sloan. Good movement by Yates. Outside the circle. Taken by Sloan. Wheatley, remembering she can't score. Ball's got to be inside the circle. And the ball. Contact goes against the Institute of Sport. Running pass for Wilson does well. Bounce to Sue Kenny.
They're looking around for the open court.
Touch pass by Darwood to Cusack. She can't find the goal. So relief for the Institute of Sport, taken away by Devery. And Devery to Gill. Finnan. Slick movement. Anderson. Goal attack. Wheatley the centre. Anderson. Letting the ball
Contact
to Yates.
Call. Contact call by the umpire against Keely Devery.
And Zelda Yates converts. 8-6. So the Institute clawing their way back into the match.
Yes, they're doing well.
Cusack for Wag. Important steadier by Sydney Tigers. They lead 9-6 with 1:30 remaining in the first quarter.
At this stage, the difference is in the scoring of the goals as opposed to the attempts. So if only the A.I.S can put those shots in, they're going to really make it hard for the Sydney Tigers to take out this game.
Closing stages of the first quarter. Taken by Yates. Plenty of opposition from Devery. She can't convert again, and the ball will be with the Keely Devry. Wilson to Devry. McCormack. Darwood taken by Kenny.
Put out of court. Ball's put back in play from the throw in.
Beautiful pass from Gill to Wheatley, quickly to Yates. Anderson just to make it 2 down. Kept in brilliantly by Anderson. She shot the goal, flicked it over to Yates. That was a sensational bit of play.
Excellent bit of play there to save that ball that was going out of court and then to capitalise by putting the shot in. Must give them a lot of heart to keep going.
Darwood fires the pass in, unsuccessful, taken by Gill. Wheatley. This has been an inspired comeback by the Australian Institute of Sport. They're down by just 2 goals. Wheatley. A minute to go in the first quarter.
They're really putting it together now.
The completion of the first quarter. Sydney Tigers lead the Australian Institute of Sport 9-7. Start of the second quarter, the lead to Sydney Tigers by 2 goals. Reception by Darwood, but it comes back to Gill. Fires the pass to Anderson. One to Sloane. Brilliant interception by Darwood. Kenny floating the pass for Darwood. Cusack. Lovely pass to Kenny, who made position. Darwood. Ends up with Wag. Over to Cusack. Important start here for Sydney Tigers. She's made it 10-7 to the Sydney Tigers.
There's the difference. The real high shot at goal. Lift well above the ring and let it drop through.
Start for Darwood to Kenny. Cusack. Cusack, beautiful pass from Wag. And like in the first quarter, Sydney Tigers getting the early break, lead 11-7.
Yes, that was off a penalty shot. Rolling round and down.
Institute of Sport cannot let Sydney Tigers get away to a big lead in the second quarter. Yates, very important for her to improve her percentage. And frustration again. The ball will be with Julianne Sloane. Ball Creek, first suburb. Back to Sloane. Away Wilson. Ends up with Yates. And Tina Anderson shoots. 11-8 in favour of Sydney Tigers.
But they've picked up one on this second break. They'll be looking to equalise.
Wag slip pass to Cusack. 1-2 with Kenny. Cusack. So Kentring, 12-8 to the Sydney Tigers.
Cusack improved her shooting in this second quarter as opposed to the first. She must be gaining confidence now. Undoubtedly coming from coach Anne Sargent.
Ends up with Wilson. Cormac for Kenny. Beautiful pass to Wag.
Very sure hands.
Kenny. The penalty pass to Wag. It'll be a penalty shot. Katrina Wag converts. 13-8 in favour of the Sydney Tigers.
They're slowly moving away again. The Institute will want to break this centre pass.
To Kenny. Almost ends up with Wag. Kenny to Cusack. 3 seconds to shoot. Back to Wag.
Another penalty coming up here. It should be an easy shot for them to put up. Contact on the ball.
Katrina Wag makes it 14-8 in favour of Sydney Tigers. Played by Sue Kenny. The interception quickly taken by Wilson. Fires the pass to Cusack. Brings in Darwood. Sue Kenny. Anticipation there by Cusack, but it's against Sharon Finnan, so the penalty shot for Cusack. And suddenly it's 15-8 in favour of the Sydney Tigers. 11.5 minutes remaining in the second quarter.
The A.I.S. team is a slow starting team, obviously, at the beginning of each quarter, and they're going to have to try and do something a little bit more dramatic at the start of the third and fourth quarters.
Kenny back to Dalwood. In the way with Susan Gill, but not. And the ball ends up with Wilson. Kenny to Wag. Kenny to Cusack. Beautiful passing between the Sydney Tigers. There'll be a penalty shot to Nicole Cusack. Can't make it.
Ball's put back into play by Cusack. Another opportunity for scoring here once it comes into that circle.
And read cleverly by Susan Gill. Dalwood going the other way. Now a chance for the Institute of Sport. With Gill, Wheatley, the centre. Anderson, goal attack for Yates. Good constructive build-up.
And the ball's been lost. Obviously something off the ball.
Cormack, bounce pass to Kenny. Comes Wag and then gets back inside the circle, but it's Cusack that receives. Overhead pass, 1-2, and it quickly ends up with Katrina Wag. And brilliant play by the Sydney Tigers. They lead 16-8. That's 8 goals.
Katrina's not making any errors. She's very sure with her hands and her shots.
Back down the other end of the court. Comeback required by the Institute of Sport. And the penalty shot with Tina Anderson. Good defence by Devery, anticipating the rhythm. And the ball will be with the Institute of Sport. Alison Wheatley comes from the ACT. Tina Anderson. Wilson getting in the way. But the ball will go to Julianne Sloan. With Anderson. And the penalty shot for Tina Anderson. Important shot, she makes it. They trail 16-9. And one of the keenest sportsmen in Australia. Yesterday he was at Victoria Park opening the new Collingwood Grandstand for Bob Rose, and next to him the new Australian captain Michelle Filkey. Watching the action of the Super League final. And Francis Dyker in possession. Comes from Victoria. And good play by Dyker. Wheatley. Sloan fires the pass to Anderson. Back to Wheatley. They're really starting to move the ball quickly. Yates goes outside the circle. 1-2 quickly ends up with Anderson. And she'll get the penalty shot. And she hasn't missed too many. 16-10 in favour of the Tigers.
No, she is improving her the scoring there.
So 6 goals in favour of Sydney Tigers. Lisa Wilson, 5 Australian senior squad members in this Tigers lineup, unbeaten in the preliminary rounds. Penalty shot for Nicole Cusack. And well done by Nicole Cusack in the Australian senior squad this year.
Yes, a good lineup in the Sydney Tigers with those Australian players.
Wilson to Cusack. Too long. Cusack had come a long way down the court.
Yes, ran out of space and the pass was just not able to be put through.
Now with Wheatley from Anderson. Looking for her again. The pass almost taken by Devery. Now the quick counter through McCormack. Wilson. The little pass. One to Kenny. Another one to Dalwood. Over to Cusack. Should be a brilliant goal. It is. A sensational play by the Tigers. They lead by 8 goals.
Yes, that finished off a beautiful passage of play.
Now Yates, the call from Sloan, ends up with Anderson. Wilson trying to get in the way, but the penalty shot will be with Alison Wheatley. Wilson and Wheatley having a smile about it. Crack right on the bridge of the nose. This is where the incident happened. As Wilson came from behind trying to knock the ball away. There was no intent in it. And the big roundhouse right hook from Lisa Wilson. Smiles all round. So, Wheatley okay. Penalty shot. And the turnover. taken by Debris. So Wilson has the opportunity. And Cusack for Kenny. Back to Cusack. Inside the circle. Bounce pass to Wag. Another brilliant passage by Sydney Tigers. And they lead 19-10.
They don't give away many loose balls.
And another goal to Sydney Tigers. They lead by 10. Start time for Institute of Sport. They've got to come back now. 6 minutes remaining in the second quarter.
They're the ones they can't afford to give away. Those passes, they must be sure where they're passing to.
Pass Dalwood to Wilson. Cusack. Well taken by Wag. Finnan trying to anticipate that rhythm. But the goal shooting skills of Wag have been a real feature today. 21-10 to Sydney Tigers.
Yeah, she's really working very well in goals. Being very sure, she's calm.
And the pass just a little bit out of the reach of Katrina Wag.
One of the rare unforced errors.
Susan Gill, Finnan, one way, past the other to Wheatley. And floating the overhead pass to Susan Gill. Back to Finnan. Trying to inspire her side. Beautiful defence by Debris. She read the play, came across and knocked it over the back line. And frustrating Tina Anderson. She's got the restart. Off hands, the ball will be with Tina Anderson for Yates. Anderson. And converts. Sydney Tigers 21, Institute of Sport 11. Sloane prominent, the wing attack for Yates. The penalty shot, she'll get another shot, doesn't go in. And she converts. So 21-12 in favour of Sydney Tigers. 4.5 minutes remaining in the second quarter.
Tigers are employing a man-to-man defence as opposed to the zone defence. And I think the Australian Institute of Sport are looking at some way to overcome that very tight defending pattern.
With Frances Dyker, represent the ACT Open side of the Australian champs last year. On by Finnan, but ends up with McCormack, the other goal defence. McCormack has the pass to Cusack. Captain Kenny. Taking a knock.
There appears to be an injury to Sue Kenny's foot. Whether it's the jar on the pass when it comes through, she's put a foot forward and appears to have jarred the front portion of the foot.
Coming into contact with Sue Gill, the wing defence. She's okay. Cusack to Wag. Taken by Finnan. Play is Susan Gill. Wheatley. Line pass to Sloane. Plenty of pressure on Yates. Excellent pass to Anderson, who's played a fine game for the Australian Institute of Sport, but they're down 21-13.
Yes, I think that's the shooter that's going to be putting those shots up. She seems to be more confident with the goals going through. Any penalties we'll probably find will be taken by her.
Penalty shot for Yates. Still can't convert. Taken lovingly by Debris. Wilson to Dalwood. Wilson, beautiful build-up. Cusack almost knocked away by Dyker. By Wilson to Dalwood. Penalty shot to Nicole Cusack. Plenty of opportunity and time here. Coming closer for the penalty shot. 22-13 in favour of Sydney Tigers.
That's showing the frustration of the A.I.S. defenders when there's a penalty shot and the second defender infringes.
Dalwood floating it to Sue Kenny. Penalty shot to the centre. Cusack decides to go outside the circle to Kenny. Back to Wag. Bit of movement. And Katrina Wag having a fine game. She won the 1988 Anne Clark Scholarship, a name synonymous with netball.
Yes, founder of netball in New South Wales, Anne Clark, guided a lot of people on their way through their netball careers.
Magnificent pass by Wilson. Ends up with Cusack. Combination with Wag. This has been an outstanding performance by the Sydney Tigers. Close to half-time. They lead 24-13.
Yes, the Australian Institute of Sport, they're going to have to work again much harder. They'll come off at half-time, and their coach Gay Teed will be certainly trying to give them something to boost them up so that they can counter this magnificent play by the Sydney Tigers.
Penalty pass to Finnan. Quickly. Sloan. Beautiful defence by Wilson. Quickly through Kenny. To Wag, who's come outside the circle. Pass to Cusack, who's outside. Kenny choosing the options. Position made by centre Dowwood. Back to Kenny, who's controlling proceedings. Fires the pass to Cusack. Into Wag. And the conversion once again with the Sydney Tigers goal shooters. They lead 25-13.
They've certainly made that passage of play look very easy.
Beautiful pass over to Anderson. Quite. Devery there. Rebound. Wilson, who's always quickly picking up that quick pass out of defence. McCormack into the action. McCormack still there, but the ball going up to the penalty shot to penalty pass to Kenny. Dowwood. Look one way, passed it to Cusack and puts it in the net. It's been a brilliant display by Sydney Tigers. They lead by 13 goals.
Taking pressure off themselves the whole time. Stepping round defenders to put shots up. Moving to open spaces, never putting themselves under any unnecessary pressure whatsoever.
Dowwood fired the pass in, but Cusack had gone the other way, and that went like a rocket.
Communication lost there a little.
Look at the speed of this pass. Tiger have made good position. And it's with Sharon Finnan, and this time it's the pass going astray for the Australian Institute of Sports. The closing moments of the second quarter, and the Sydney Tigers lead by 13 goals. And right on half-time, Lisa Wilson looks to be okay. She almost turned over on the ankle, but it's been a dominating the first half for the Sydney Tigers. They lead the Australian Institute of Sport by 26-13. Start of the third quarter. Change for the new goal shooter for the Australian Institute of Sport, Claire Smallercombe. But it's Sydney Tigers in possession. To Sue Kenny. To Wag, who's had a marvellous first half. There's Cusack. And a good start by the Sydney Tigers. They lead 27-13.
Nicole's settled down with her shots. She's lifting them high. High action, nice wrist action, flipping over.
Still the Sydney Tigers press on. The penalty shot for Nicole Cusack, so a chance for her second goal in the early moments of the third term. She converts. 28-13 to Sydney Tigers.
And I'm sure all the goal shooters or goal attacks that are watching will try and take a line off Nicole's shooting skill and her style. Very difficult to defend a high shot.
700,000 netballers around Australia. I hope that many are enjoying this telecast of the Super League final. A chance for Tina Anderson. Off the rim and taken by McCormack. She's had plenty of possessions in the opening moments of the third quarter. Kenny. Wag back to Devery, who fires it to Cusack. Wonderful take by Wag. Steading down through Kenny. Looking for Dowwood. And they went one way, then the other taken by Finnan. So well done, Australian Institute of Sport. Dyker, quick hands. Wheatley to Sloan. Through Anderson. Bounce pass to Smallercombe, but read well by McCormack. Slowing things down. Lead 15 goals to Sydney Tigers. Some on the way, but the penalty shot goes to Sloan. Wheatley to Smallercombe. Anticipated by Devery, but the penalty shot with Claire Smallercombe comes from Victoria. An under-19 player. Well done by the newcomer in the third quarter. It's 28-14 to Sydney Tigers.
Much better action by Smallercombe with that high lift of the ball on the shot.
To Kenny, always prominent. Cusack. Heads up with fellow goal shooter in Wag, who hasn't missed too many. Sloan, Wheatley, almost Wilson in the way. Sloan fires the pass to Smallacone. Let's have a look at the action. It'll be a penalty shot, getting a little bit closer. And taken by Devery, but the penalty shot.
Retake.
And well done. So 29-15 in favour of Sydney Tigers. Kenny for Wag. Cusack. To Darwood. Bounce pass. Cusack. Take the penalty shot. He gets the second opportunity. Doesn't miss too many. 30-15 the lead to Sydney Tigers.
Defenders have to be careful not to give away those penalty shots, particularly when they're close to the post.
Smallacone. Excellent conversion rate so far. Chipping away, but still down 30-16.
Smallacombe's probably the person to make the difference here, and if she can keep putting shots in from that height, she's going to whittle back that lead that the Sydney Tigers have.
Penalty pass through Dyker to Finnan. Come back to the Institute of Sport captain, the oldest at 21 years of age. Susan Gill comes from the strong Manly club in New South Wales. The Sloan. Wilson in the way, persistent, nagging away. And toss up. Kenny. Smallacombe again. Yes, she's on fire. Fun comeback by the Australian Institute of Sport. It's still down 30-17. Marked by Cheryl McCormack. Another opportunity for the Institute of Sport. Penalty pass to Wheatley. Now another one. Claire Smallacombe. And she really is inspiring a comeback by the Australian Institute of Sport. They trail 30-18, and the coach of the Sydney Tigers, the most famous names in Australian sport, now retired from the Australian side, Anne Sargent. Nicole Cusack looked one way, then flicked it to Wag. Back to Cusack through Darwood. Got the room, conversion. An important goal to steady things down for the Sydney Tigers. They lead 31-18.
The Institute has altered its style of play in this quarter. They're playing a slower, particular game. That one was an unforced error, of course, but they are trying to put the Sydney Tigers off their fast style of play. If they can slow the Tigers down, they're going to force them into errors.
Ball with Cheryl McCormack. Was initially. Goes up to Kenny, but offhands it'll still be with Sydney Tigers. Cole Cusack for captain. Quick 1-2 back to Cusack. Would have been a penalty shot, but not needed. And Sydney Tigers lead 32-18. Alternate pass, so it's the turn of the Sydney Tigers. Wilson.
Nice break by Lisa Wilson.
Kenny choosing the options. Wag had a bit of room. And a rare miss by Wag, but it'll be Sue Kenny giving Wag another opportunity. The quick exchange. And Katrina Wag having a fine game for the Sydney Tigers. Takes them out to 33-18.
The Institute are trying to get that ball into Smallacombe, who has proved most effective.
Exactly what you're talking about, Adele, and her conversion rate has been outstanding in the early stages of the third quarter. Cusack, sliding pad, Wag, big pass, beautiful pass from Kenny to Cusack. Blink of the eye, your conversion 34-19 to Sydney Tigers, and really they have this Super League final very much in control. As we have a look at the passing here between the Sydney Tigers, fired across by Wag, and quickly, so quick over to Nicole Cusack, even on the slow motion.
Good communication between the players. Unlucky not to have that from a good intercept from the keeper.
Carissa Darwood also comes from Manly. Good play by Alison Wheatley. That was a fine interception. Wheatley now in possession, trying to set things up for Gill. Just a smaller comb. Back to Alison Wheatley. Wheatley prominent, but too high for Claire Smallacombe. And the ball will be with Cheryl McCormack, who played for Australia way back in 1985.
Yeah, Cheryl McCormack has been playing for New South Wales for quite a number of years. Had a rest, and now she's back in the big league again.
Wag to Cusack. Wag into the circle. The penalty shot will go to Nicole Cusack. Step closer, and it's 35-19 in favour of the Sydney Tigers. Remembering that their smallest loss in the round robin was 17 goals.
Yes, they're a force to be contended with.
Cusack. That was an excellent shot indeed. 36-19.
Beautiful shot from Nicole, from right out on the circle edge or close to it.
Distance of that shot by Nicole Cusack. Back up with Tina Anderson, who's countering, but still a long way to go for the Australian Institute of Sport. They won the title twice, but they'll have to work brilliantly to take out their third Super League title. They're down 36-20, and the ball with Nicole Cusack, her chance to counter, and she really has improved her goal shooting as the match has gone on. 37-20 to Sydney Tigers.
Yes, Nicole has really steadied, and she's putting every shot up that comes to her with much confidence.
About 5 minutes remaining in the third quarter. Sydney Tigers 37, the Australian Institute of Sport 20. And in the way is McCormack, but it comes back to Smallacombe. Wilson in the way. McCormack, the combination. But the ball will be with Institute of Sport. Tina Anderson hasn't missed too many. 37-21 to Sydney Tigers.
This combination from the Australian Institute is working much better in the circle.
Kenny, the variety of the passes from Sue Kenny is a joy to watch. Got it back from Wag, looking for Cusack, and let her down. And this has been brilliant display by the Sydney Tigers. They lead 38-21. And Sloan, 1-2 with Anderson, but just a little bit high, so the pressure really coming on now to the Australian Institute of Sport. It's been on all match, of course, but tiring from the extra pressure being put on, the chasing, the speed of the Sydney Tigers. Passes like this from Kenny, read by Darwood. I think it might have been met for Wag inside the circle. And Carissa Darwood, a note here from this pass by Sue Kenny.
Yes, two players in the way. Should have gone straight into the circle.
And another goal to Nicole Cusack, 39-21. And the ball will restart again with Cusack for a moment, intercepted by Finnan's fine play. Pass by Gill back to Finnan, setting up the play. Alison Wheatley, Julianne Sloan, and over to Claire Smallacombe. Penalty shot, recovery, and well done, Calista Smallacombe, coming on to Zelda Yates after half-time. 39-22 to Sydney Tigers. Fought very hard for this goal. We're trying to get in the way. And with Lisa Wilson. Kenny, Wag. A rare error.
It is a rare, unforced error.
Wheatley. Sloan, Anderson, goal attack. Wheatley for Smallacombe. Anderson. It's good passing. Bounce pass to Smallacombe. And once again she converts. Having a fine game. 39-23 Sydney Tigers.
They're not forcing that ball through. The Institute are willing to play it round on the edge of the circle to ensure that the ball goes in cleanly.
And Katrina Wag going down on that left ankle. There'll be a hold-up as Katrina Wag recovers. I think she'll be okay. Coming in from Sue Kenny, and Finnan getting in the way, and when she lands, that's when it happened.
Yes, the defending player came in underneath as she was landing, just unsettled the foot coming down flat onto the floor.
It's another opportunity. So Katrina Wagg, who was a member of the successful Australian Under-21 World Youth Cup team, takes the score to 40 Sydney Tigers, Australian Institute of Sport 23. Taken by Julianne Sloan as she stepped out over the line. So Cheryl McCormack, the restart. Good crowd here at the State Sports Centre. Magnificent venue for netball. And a big year coming up for the Australians. Soon they'll be playing New Zealand in the land of the long white cloud, and then the West Indies touring Australia in May. Sue Kenny will be playing a prominent part in the Australian side. It's back to her. Beautiful pass to Katrina Wagg. And 18 goals is the margin to Sydney Tigers, getting towards the end of the third quarter.
Yes, the experience of the Sydney Tigers is starting to show through.
Recovery by Cusack, always steadying down. The opportunity to steady down to Kenny. Wagg to Cusack. And 42 Sydney Tigers lead the Australian Institute of Sport 23.
The goal averages are certainly up today.
Too high, too long for Tina Anderson. So it's quickly back with McCormack. Wilson plays a brilliant role in mid-court, linking with Kenny and Wagg, firing the quick passes. And Cusack will get another go with the penalty shot, a little bit closer. And Sydney Tigers go out to a lead of 20 goals.
The Institute defenders must really feel terrible. Once they give away a penalty, they can almost rest assured that that shot will go in. No pressure at all on the shooter.
And the pressure still coming through Sue Kenny. Cusack has really picked up in the goal shooting side of things. She's had a fine game. She's an Australian senior squad member in 1989. Sloan. Pass by Smallcombe. It was a beautiful pass to Wheatley. Bounces it to Anderson. And the ball will be Claire Smallcombe. As a miss too many. Sydney Tigers 44, A.I.S 24.
The gap is widening slightly, but it's only to be hoped that the Institute players can keep calm and capitalise on any errors that may come their way.
Another goal to Katrina Wagg, and the lead close to three-quarter time is 21 goals to the Sydney Tigers. And this goal by Katrina Wagg, who's had a brilliant game for the Sydney Tigers, right on three-quarter time. And the score in the Super League Grand Final at the State Sports Centre in Sydney is the Sydney Tigers 45, the A.I.S 24. Final quarter underway, and Sue Kenny really prominent. Cole Cusack, new goalkeeper, is Sharon Finnan. They made the change with Frances Dyke, who's gone to goal defence, but the opening goal in the final term makes the Sydney Tigers 46 to the A.I.S 24. Wheatley. Done by Smallcombe. And the penalty shot from Julianne Sloan. So, penalty shot ends up with Tina Anderson. So a goal apiece in the early stages. The lead to the Sydney Tigers, 21 goals. Strong pass, almost too strong for Cusack. Kenny controlling proceedings. Beautiful pass to Cusack. She got a bit of room and she's used it. Nicole Cusack looks across at her captain, smiles, says thank you. Sydney Tigers 47, A.I.S 25. Knocked by Wilson, ends up with Wheatley. And Smallcombe continuing her good form from the third term.
She's improving with each shot.
Kenny by Dalwood. Back to Kenny, a beautiful touch pass to Cusack. Knocked away, well done Sharon Finnan. Change to that goalkeeping position. Bork. Goes back to Darwood. Wagg's first opportunity to shoot in the final term, and she uses it constructively. Sydney Tigers 48, the A.I.S 25.
Some good pressure put on that last shot by Finnan and caused Cusack to miss with the first one, but fortunately they got the pass back again and another shot went up.
Sina Anderson, another opportunity. Goal attack. Second time lucky. So it's 2 goals apiece. A big comeback required by the A.I.S. And you can't really see it happening with the way that the Sydney Tigers have played. The penalty shot will be with Nicole Cusack. Not quite, didn't even hit the rim. And the ball will be with the A.I.S. captain Sharon Finnan. She played in the New South Wales winning championship side last year, so she's playing against a number of her teammates. And championships this year in Canberra. So Julianne Sloan, brilliantly taken by Lisa Wilson. Dominating the play. Cusack covers by Wag, but she's overstepped the line, so the ball will be with the red and whites. And they're down 21 goals.
They're going to hope to capitalise on this and take the ball right back down to their own circle and hopefully score.
Taken by Sloan, gets a bit of movement back quickly to her. Through the legs of Tina Anderson. And she has had a fine game for the A.I.S. Tina Anderson. 48 Sydney Tigers. Team from Canberra 28. Looking for Anderson, who continues her fine form, and it's exciting to watch these young stars who've been with the Australian Institute of Sport, some just the 1 year, many of them 2 years, but really when you look at the future of netball with the World Tournament coming up in 1991, it's exciting times ahead.
Yes, they have to build, and of course that's the place to start with them when they're the youngsters and keep them coming. And that, of course, is part of the role of the Institute in Australia, is to bring up all those young players so that they'll finally line up in the green and gold.
Katrina Wag from Karingai, but also the Sydney Tigers, takes them to 49, A.I.S 29. And it's the coach of the Institute, KT. It's a nail-biting time she's been at the Institute since 1982, an Australian player herself, but really a tall order for her side to get even close to their opponents. Nicole Cusack knocked away from her. The ball will come back to Katrina Wag. And a penalty shot, so opponent has to stand by. And Wag capitalises and takes the Sydney Tigers to 50, A.I.S 29.
The gap is widening.
Cusack walking one way, but Wag overstepped the line. But they're really trying so much now. The pressure's right off them, and this is where you can sit back and enjoy top netball and experiment. They love to experiment in this situation. Still the A.I.S are chipping away. Certainly haven't given up throughout the match. They've worked very, very hard. Susan Gill. Smaller comb. Anderson. Here's by Devery. And played by Alison Wheatley, getting in front of Darwood. And jump ball inside the circle between McCormack and Anderson, but the penalty shot going to Anderson, knocked away by Wilson. So it's still with the Australian Institute of Sport. Anderson looking for a smaller comb. It does well to keep it on, but the sprinting from Wilson, also down the court comes Gill. That looked ominous.
A collision at that pace, somebody's bound to be injured.
You notice Wilson coming across, well done by Gill, because it early on looked a definite ball to Sydney Tigers. Cole Cusack through the pass of Darwood. And 51 Sydney Tigers, the A.I.S 29. And we've got just under 9 minutes of the match remaining. Wheatley to Anderson.
Offside.
Read by Devery. Almost. Great anticipation by Devery. Took a year off after the 1987 World Tournament, but she's back on the Australian trail with the A.I.S. Well played by Wilson. the ball still remains with the A.I.S. Anderson to Wheatley, looking for smaller comb. Marked by Devery. Brilliant play by Devery. Flicking it to fellow defender McCormack. Darwood, a long one to Devery, who's come down the court. Wag, Kenny, Cusack comes off Finnan's hand. Cusack looking one way, then Wag wasn't quite ready. Clash with Wheatley. And the ball remains with Sydney Tigers. Carissa Darwood, Cusack, two youngsters into the Australian senior squad. Off the rim, chance for Wheatley. She's really had a fine battle with Carissa Darwood in the centre. Gill, Julianne Sloan, Anderson. Brilliant knock away by Keely Devery. She just read that so cleverly and timed the leap. But it's still with Tina Anderson. Wheatley for Claire Smaller-Combe. And a penalty shot with Claire Smaller-Combe. Sydney Tigers 51, lead the A.I.S. 30.
Tigers can't afford to relax even at this stage with such a lead. Once they relax, they're going to be giving away penalties to the Australian Institute team.
Pass by Julianne Sloan, bumped by Wilson, but the ball will be with Sydney Tigers. Cheryl McCormack. It's the pass coming to Anderson, and crash went Wilson and to Julianne Sloan. Going the other end of the court. Darwood for Cusack. The jump from Finnan and Borks. So all the opportunities, the variety. And Katrina Wag makes the lead to Sydney Tigers 22 with just over 6 minutes remaining. Jump by Wheatley. Smaller-Combe. And a long shot taken over the back by Devery. Quick pass to Wilson, opening things up, but Cusack not quite there. And the ball will be with Sharon Finnan. Lisa Wilson, formerly BHAG, really fine player in mid-court. That link player.
Yes, Lisa is a very strong player, both in attack and defence. Very powerful. Good anticipation.
Combination with Kenny has been outstanding. And the penalty shot for Nicole Cusack. Step forward, and Sydney Tigers 53, the A.I.S. 30. Led by Sharon Finnan. A change in the last quarter. And the pressure coming on the Institute defenders. Although the bounce pass going the wrong way.
Yes, too flat, that bounce pass. No opportunity to pick it up as it went by.
Almost count on one hand the unforced errors from Sydney Tigers, and taken through the anticipation of Kenny. Going back to her, Wilson to Cusack outside the circle. Kenny for Wag. Normally there's been a conversion. Not on that time, knocked away by Finnan. It's quickly back to Cusack, the other goal shooter. There's another opportunity. Surely she'll put it in. And Sydney Tigers lead by 24. There's 4.5 minutes remaining in the final.
A bit of a careless shot there. Because they're so far in front, that's the time they're likely to make those errors.
Tina Anderson. And that was a good shot for goal. She steadied, got a rhythm, and put in the 31st goal for the A.I.S. But they're down by 23. Quarter time, Sydney Tigers by 2 goals. Half time out to 13. Three-quarter, 21 goals. They now lead by 23. Wheatley looking for Wag. Penalty shot. In fact, a penalty pass. And a penalty shot, of course, because she's shooting for goal. And 55 plays 31. Wheatley for Smaller-Combe. Out for Sloan. The low pass to Anderson. And certainly the goal shooters, Smaller-Combe and Anderson, have worked very well in combination.
They have combined extremely well and have been far more accurate with their shots.
Wag using her great reach to advantage throughout this match, and that's a fine example of it. And her conversion rate, smiles all round between Wag and Cusack, would be outstanding in this match. 56 Sydney Tigers, A.I.S 32.
The Institute players are certainly going to have learned a lot by playing against a team of such quality players.
So another goal to Tina Anderson, who has worked very hard for her side. Always difficult when you're down throughout the match. She's plugged away, and her conversion rate has been excellent as well. And sorry for that. Netball and Nicole Cusack, an exciting player of the future for Australian netball. 57 Sydney Tigers, the A.I.S 33. Another opportunity for Tina Anderson, and she doesn't miss too many. And the 34th goal for A.I.S, Sydney Tigers 57.
They're certainly sticking to their task well, the Institute players.
Wilson to Kenny. Cusack then fires the pass to Wag. Well done, Finnan. Gill. Back to a captain. Riker, read by Smallwood, but the ball's still with Francis Dyker, receptionist, who's the Australian under-19 squad in 1987 and 88. Player of the future. And it's back with Tina Anderson, who hit the penalty shot. Once again converting. Terrific display by Tina Anderson. She comes from Sutherland in New South Wales. It's back with her again. Bounce pass for Claire Smallacombe. Sydney Tigers 57, A.I.S 36.
They've slowed their play down again and making sure of their passes to give maximum opportunity to their shooters. It has paid off in the last two passages of play.
Sharon Finnan. Towards the closing moments of the Super League final. Continue in 1990. The trophy will be the Prime Minister's Cup. And this game, netball in the future here in Australia, is so bright. And it's been a real pleasure to watch the current stars and stars of the future in action at the Netball State Centre. So Bob Hawke announcing that the Prime Minister's Cup will be played for over the next few years and after that. So a great incentive for the sides in the Super League. They've played 5 matches, preliminary round robin, before we got to this final. McCormack contesting, and she gets the ball in a terrific combination with Devry, the link with Wilson. And the hooter sounds to indicate a victory to the Sydney Tigers by 21 goals and an outstanding display. Sydney Tigers win the Super League final, 57 goals to the A.I.S 36 in a magnificent display by the Sydney side, unbeaten in the competition.
A magnificent performance by the Sydney Tigers, giving them their first Super League title. And with me, Australian coach Wilma Shakespeare. Wilma, you must have been impressed by the Sydney Tigers.
Oh yes, I think they were in a class of their own. They have been throughout the series. The win, really, they just built and built. The speed, the control was there right throughout, and it was a magic win for them.
Some of the exciting youngsters like Cusack and Darwood coming into the Australian senior squad.
Yes, I was sitting there. Half of me was really thrilled, and the other half, because it's very much Institute, felt a bit sad. They were a little short on the day. But yes, Cusack and Darwood's performance has to be very encouraging, given that we leave next Sunday for New Zealand for our very first Test series.
And then after that, the exciting West Indians come to Australia.
Yes, well, you call them exciting. We perhaps won't tell you the adjective we sometimes use, but the series will bring netball alive, just as it did last year. And at the end of it, we then pick a side that goes to World Games, where the top 5 nations will have a head-to-head, and that's the first time since Scotland. So you can imagine we're fairly anxious to see the result of that one.